The October 7th massacre in Israel unleashed a surge of anti-Semitism around the world. Well, a ministry called Jewish Voice has launched a new campaign calling on Christians to stand with their Jewish neighbors.
2024 has been called a peak year for anti-Semitism. The number of anti-Semitic incidents worldwide doubled from 2023 and rose 340% from 2022. Even in America, Jews face greater threats of discrimination, online harassment, and physical violence. To combat this growing tide of anti-Semitism, the ministry Jewish Voice recently launched the Love Your Jewish Neighbor campaign, encouraging Christians to reach out with love and support of the Jewish people in their communities. Led by Jonathan Bernis, Jewish Voice exists to transform lives and see all Israel saved. For more than 50 years, Jewish Voice has brought both humanitarian aid and the gospel message to Jewish communities around the world, growing the Messianic Jewish community and engaging the church to love Israel and the Jewish people.
Well, with us now is my dear friend, the president of Jewish Voice Ministries, Jonathan Bernis. And Jonathan, it's a real pleasure to have you with us.
Oh, it's so great to be back, Gordon.
We were talking, and you said that in the months following October 7th, there was a real rise of pro-Israel support, and then you went through a hospitalization, and you weren't in touch with the media anymore. And then when you came out of it, suddenly everything was anti-Israel. What was that like for you?
The world changed overnight for me. Let me first say thank you to everyone that was praying for me during my health crisis. I had a liver transplant 14 months ago and doing great now. But I was in Dallas October 28th. My liver stopped working. It was a fluke. I had been diagnosed with liver cancer, but I was free to travel. I was going through a transplant process and ended up in ER. I was in a coma for 2 weeks, came out of the coma and went through this transplant process and didn't watch the television for about 2.5 months. Now, right before the transplant, when I was in Dallas before the health crisis, I was watching the news every day post October 7th. And there was a lot of support for Israel. Americans, our government was very supportive of Israel. There was a lot of empathy for Israel after the attack. And then I turned on the television 2.5 months later, anti-Semitism everywhere. I saw it in everything. I saw it in our policy. Israel, of course, was criticized as soon as they started to fulfill their commitment to destroy Hamas, a terrorist organization committed to Israel's destruction. And Israel was the one being blamed for genocide, which is completely contrary to the truth. And it was just, the world turned upside down overnight for me.
Well, I've been saying truth has been turned upside down. It makes no sense. Here you have Hamas call, from the river to the sea means genocide. Let's wipe out every single Jew and let's wipe Israel off the map.
Yeah,
and
that's the genocide.
Yeah, that's Hamas.
The terrorists, right?
They're the ones who started it, and it just seems to be. Are you kidding me? To say Israel is engaged in genocide, it just doesn't make any sense. No. And that narrative seems to be continuing, and not just continuing on sort of Middle Eastern stages, but on the stage of the UN and the international courts and within American universities. So just from a causation level, why is this happening?
Well, I think the root of it is spiritual, and this is just my view. I think that this is the same spirit that the Nazis were under, the destruction of the Jewish people. Ultimately, the UN has sanctioned Israel more than any other nation in history, more than Iran, more than North Korea, on and on. It's absurd. It's just absurd unless you understand. Anti-Semitism is irrational, Gordon, unless you understand the spiritual roots, that there is an enemy of God that wants to destroy God's plan, and the people that brought that plan of redemption to the world through Jesus, and ultimately the return of Jesus is connected to the survival and the salvation of the Jewish people.
Well, you're head of Jewish Voice. You have something for Christians to do, and it's a program, Love Your Jewish Neighbor. How do we as Christians effectively do that?
Well, one is prayer. I think that the church, and our focus on Love Your Jewish Neighbor is to educate the church and to inspire the church to be proactive in speaking out against anti-Semitism, to love their Jewish co-workers, neighbors, extended family members, and to take a stand against anti-Semitism. Look, if you go back to the Holocaust, the institutional church failed the Jewish people. But there were righteous Gentiles that stood up for the Jewish people, that housed Jewish people. Many Jewish people that survived were because Christians that were proactive, that understood that God loves the Jewish people, he's committed to the Jewish people, and has told followers of the scriptures, the God of Israel, the Messiah of Israel, to love the Jewish people and to bless them. Genesis 12, I will bless those that bless my people. And many of Christians that love the Lord and saw that promise and were proactive saved the Jewish people during the Holocaust. And we need that group again. We need Christians to be proactive, to stand up for the Jewish people, to pray for the protection and salvation of the Jewish people. We need Corrie ten Boom's again. We need Bonhoeffers again in the church today.
In some of my interactions with the Jewish community, there are people who are very receptive to Christians standing with them, but there's others that sort of view it with suspicion. That, you know, what's your real agenda kind of,
right,
is sort of the pushback, and is this all part of some kind of end time prophecy? You're trying to hasten the coming of Armageddon, those kinds of things. What would you tell Christians to do when you interact and find that resistance?
Yeah, that's a 2,000-year history of anti-Semitism, and there's a lot of skepticism when you have the Crusades, when you have the Spanish Inquisition, right, when you have the Holocaust, and so there's a lot of suspicion. But when Christians demonstrate, according to Romans 11, provoking the Jewish people to jealousy by demonstrating the love, the sense of purpose, the commitment to bless, Jewish people are won over. When they see Christians' faith, and you know, I recommend that every Christian that loves the Lord reaches out to Jewish people and demonstrates the love of God, and the Jewish friend will end up asking them, why? And then they can talk about their love for the Jewish Messiah. That changes hearts.
All right. Well, you heard it. If you want to find out more about Love Your Jewish Neighbor campaign, all you have to do is go to cbnnews.com. And I remind Christians everywhere, realize Christianity is a Jewish religion. That's how we got a Messiah. So let's bless Israel, and let's stand with our older brothers and sisters in the faith. There's a lot Christians can learn from Judaism, and so reach out with hands, love and compassion. Just love them, and if they resist, great, love them anyway. Amen. It's going to be great.
We get it. Your life is crazy right now. You've got a lot going on, so who has time to change the world? Well, guess what? You do. When you become a CBN partner, you make an impact on lives all around the world. For just $20 a month, you help provide safe water, good food for hungry tummies, life-changing surgeries, and a helping hand to someone in need. You're helping to preach the gospel all across the globe. You're sharing the love of Jesus and building the kingdom of God right from your living room, or your car, or from work, or wherever you are. It's a big impact for just $20 a month. That's about the price of 4 lattes, or 3 if you're really fancy. It's easy to sign up. Just go to cbn.com or call us at 1-800-700-7000. Become a CBN partner today and start changing the world.